Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for sending over your 4.1 of the Gold Quality Award application. Let's go through it. I have some notes. I just want to talk to you about a few things here. First and foremost, and don't mind my chicken scratch. As I'm reviewing these things, I'm trying to make heads or tails, and I write myself a lot of notes here. And I just want to draw your attention first and foremost to the word how once again, just to keep in mind that when I'm reading an application, I'm always trying to see if I can add a number. Like if I can go, okay, this is step number 1. Okay, there's step number 2. Oh, there's step number 3. Oh, there's step number 4, right? Like I'm always hoping, I just put them in randomly. When I think of the process, which how just simply means what process do you use, I literally want to see, and you don't have to write step 1 and then step 2. You don't have to write that. But as an examiner, that's what I'm reading. I'm going, okay, we do this and then this and then this. Like that whole this and this and this structure is pretty indicative to or evident of a structured process, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. And also this 4.1 with all heading questions, they're really interesting in the sense that number one, they're very general, right? Like you don't have to put a lot in here to answer the 4.1 or the 4.2 or the 1.1, right? Like the heading question, 4.1 heading question, should be pretty straightforward. And in an kind of ironic way, 4.1, the question of 4.1, in the Quality Award program, they call it the umbrella. But quite honestly, 4.1A actually is the precursor to 4.1. I'll try to explain what I mean, but let's do it like this. Let me show you this. So I was kind of drawing out. I was drawing out my well, I'm making a lot of notes here. Okay, so if we're thinking in terms of a process map, and the question is, how do you measure? Let me erase this too. How do you measure? How do you analyze? How do you review? And how do you improve your organizational performance, right? Like this is 4.1. 4.1, the question is, how do you measure, analyze, review, and improve your organizational performance? If you said, like, we have a 5-step or a 4-step or an 8-step, like senior leaders have a 4-step process to measure, analyze, review, and improve our organizational performance data, which starts with taking our data and measuring it over time, right? Like the measure starts with raw data, and we want it to become information. And so what do we need between data and information is, of course, context. So that's this whole measure. The measure is when we are putting it all in one place so we can see whether we are trending positively or trending negatively, right? Like that's that whole measure. And then we're going to analyze it. We're going to analyze it over time and review it to identify strategic challenges and or strategic opportunities. And it is in that review, if during your review process you identify some problems, or what we would call strategic challenges, you would then turn those strategic challenges into objectives, and those objectives would be sent to your QAPI meeting for improvement, right? And that is how you measure, analyze, review, and improve your data, right? Like this literally is QAPI. You first have to measure you have to have some sort of a measure, and these measures are usually it looks like an R, tried to be a KPI, are usually from your KPIs, right? Like your key performance indicators are what you're measuring over time. And then you're analyzing it month over month, quarter over quarter, day over day. And you are reviewing that data to see, are you trending up? Are you trending down? How are you comparing yourself to your competitors? Are you doing better? Are you doing worse? And anything that you review that turns out to be a strategic challenge or something you should be working on, then you take that strategic challenge, turn it into, identify the strategic objective. You have too many falls, you want to lower falls. And it's there where you bring it to QAPI for the improvement. And then maybe even describe your 3 or 8 step process improvement program. Like, how do you improve a program? We do this and we do this and we do this and we do this. All of that is to say that you could say a lot more with just explaining your process. What is the step-by-step process you use to measure, analyze, review, and improve your data? Now, this box that I put in the front, and by the way, this process map could be really helpful. Like, I know it just looks kind of stupid. I literally just did this, as a process map. But it doesn't have to be, we're just going from there to there. Those are supposed to be arrows. One of us can't draw arrows very good. There we go. Okay, right? So I'm just, as an examiner, I love process maps. I love to be able to see, we go from, data comes in here, and it goes in here, and then it comes out here, and then it goes in there. It really is helpful to give us a visual so we can see exactly what you're talking about. This gather part, there's a huge amount of information that goes in this gather part. But it's not 4.1. This is 4.1A1. And it goes above the 4.1 question because what it's asking is, okay, how do you track data and information? Well, you need to track data and information before you can measure, analyze, and review it. Don't you agree? Like, doesn't it make sense? You have to have your information in order. And so doesn't it also make sense that you have to know what data is important to you so that you can collect it all, right? So it's a weird way of kind of backtracking, but I just want you to visually see that this is 4.1, right? This is 4.1, and it's just a structure. It's just a structure. You're just giving us the structure of that process. And then 4.1A, we're kind of going backwards and going, okay, I see how you do it. So wait, how do you actually track your data and information? On your daily operations, we'll split it right in half, right? Like this will be daily, and this will be overall. Like, how do you do that? It's likely that you use the same process for both of them, right? So it's likely the same process. And you could even say, we use this process to gather, to track data and information on both daily and overall. And so you're saying you use matrix care and value-based care solutions. Now, a couple of things. Number one, I just want to remind you that not all examiners, especially at the gold level, have any idea what matrix care is or value-based care solutions is, right? So if you just gave us a little bit of explanation, if you just said, instead of giving us like the name brand, you could say, or in addition to the name brand, you could say, we use a service called Matrix Care and a service called Value-Based Care Solutions to help us collect and track all of our data in one place. Now, if you're using Matrix Care and Value-Based Care Solutions to collect your data all in one place, that'd be good. That is what we're asking when we're asking about integration. Integration just simply means how are you taking all these random data sources and putting them under one roof so you can look at them in one place and be able to make really good decisions, having that whole view of your organization's operations in this one place. That's what integration is really all about. The other thing that, because it's a how question, how do you track this down in information? I'm asking, is it collected automatically? Because maybe it is, right? Like this data is pulled in directly from our electronic medical records, from our PCC, whatever, right? Like maybe it's collected automatically. Perfect. The next thing that I would also maybe identify is when, right? Like, is there a time? Is there a time that you are reviewing this data? So it all gets collected and we review it daily, weekly, monthly. And I know you're saying you do say it. So just give me one second as I go through this. The next part of the question, and as you can see, I wrote them down: select, collect, align, integrate. Right. The reason, and I do this when I'm reading an application, you should see the applications I review. Thank God the person who wrote the application doesn't get my chicken scratch notes, but it's very important for me as I'm reading the application because I'm trying to identify, like, did they answer this part? Did they answer that part? Right? Like, and everybody reads their applications differently, of course, but, this is how I do it. So I'm first interested in, how do you select your organizational data? Okay. So, and you tell us. The way that you in selecting, okay, so I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of this sentence, and the reason is because you're treating the selecting, aligning, and integrating as very similar things, and with peace and love, they really aren't. Okay, so when selecting, my question about selecting is, what are you basing it on? What is it based on? And you're probably selecting organizational data from your KPIs. And these KPIs, I am sure, are directly related to your strategic objectives and your action plans. So what data how do you select your organizational data that you use to review daily operations and overall operations? Well, you're selecting data based on what is important to you. And you tell us already what's important to you. Your key organizational performance measures are, right? You already say patient safety, quality measures, census, and financial stability. Great. It's a great list. It's a great thing. So you're selecting your data for daily and overall performance measures based on what is important to you and what is directly aligned with your KPIs of your strategic objectives and your action plans. That's really the long and short answer of it. Collecting your data, you already kind of answered, and that is, well, that word that I just erased and didn't mean to, that word is house. Sometimes my writing. Collecting is like, where do you house it, right? And the integration is also, where do you house it? Like, how do you take various sources of information and put it all together? The align part is similar in the selecting, in that you said employ, I would say ID. We ID key performance indicators related to our strategic objectives and our action plans. That's the alignment part. Integrate, again, various sources of data all in one place. And how do you track progress on achieving your strategic objectives and action plans? So to track progress on achieving objectives and action plans, we employ key performance indicators. I would use the word identify key performance indicators related to our strategic objectives and our action plans, because that is the question. The question is, how do you track progress on achieving your strategic objectives and action plans? Not patient outcomes, not census, not financials, even though those are related to your strategic objectives and action plans. I know that, and I would not keep repeating those. I would instead use the language of the application. I would say strategic objectives and action plans in this place. This is going to make it a lot easier for the examiner to follow along with your thought process. Certainly me. So, take me for what it is, I guess. Not everybody reads like I do. Adherence to regulatory standards. Okay. Our daily IDT meeting, weekly risk meeting, and monthly copy meeting allows senior leaders to have continuous learning experience in adding a new The new care feed allows senior leaders to now adjust measures quickly by sending it down. Again, if I wasn't involved in long-term care, and again, most people aren't, I would not know what you just said. I would not know exactly what you just said. Because I think what you're now answering is the part on how you modify or adjust your measures to provide timely data and address rapid or unexpected organizational or external changes. And what you're saying is that we meet in a daily IDT meeting, and we have weekly risk meetings, and we have monthly QAPI meetings. And it's in these meetings where we are identifying any needed changes that we need to make to either modify or adjust any performance measures that we need to use in an emergency to make other decisions. What I just said is a little bit more clear, I think, than what I'm reading. Although I think what you're saying is exactly what I said. I just think it's maybe an easier way of saying it. I would invite you to consider that the word allow could also mean not allow. Like if you're giving, if you're to have a systematic process, it's not if we want to meet monthly. It's that we meet monthly. That's systematic. If we want to meet, well, it means you could also not meet, right? So the word allow kind of puts off that non-systematic vibe to me. I would not use the word allow. I would just simply say, our senior leaders have a daily IDT meeting, a weekly risk meeting, a monthly QAPI meeting, and that is where we evaluate our KPIs or the performance measures that we're using to track daily and overall. And it is there that we are able to make adjustments if needed. If we need to make adjustments on what we're measuring so that we get a better, clearer, more accurate picture to reflect the current circumstances, that's when we make those decisions. That's in those meetings is when we do it. And then finally, what are your key organizational performance measures, including key short and long-term financials. I put a little check mark there to say that I think you've nailed it. I think that's really great. I just want to point out that it would go on my TOER, meaning it is something that I would expect to see in the results section. I'm going to be looking for patient safety results. I'm going to be looking for quality measures, of course. I'm going to be looking for census, of course, right? I'm going to be looking for these financials, of course, right? Just as a case in point, that those are things that I'm going to be looking for. I hope that's helpful. Let me go to 4.1A2. Okay. All right, 4.1A2 is how do you select? So again, it's a how question. So I'm looking for this step-by-step process. And the key word here is select. And so you say, to select our comparative data, let me change color on my pen. To select comparative data, White House Healthcare uses measurable metrics that reflect quality of care. Oh, okay, so hold on. Based on what? Based on what? We're talking about comparative data. Comparative data. What are you comparing? How do you select comparative data? Compared to what, right? So there's two ways to think about this. Probably a dozen ways to think about it, but two ways that I think about it. One is comparing your own internal data month over month, over time, over a historical comparison. How were we last year compared to this year? That might be one of the ways that we select comparative data. We look at our key performance indicators year over year, and we track and trend to see if we are doing better or doing worse. The other thing that we could be, another way that we could be selecting our comparative data and information This is all to support fact-based decision making. And that is an important point too, because at this level, we're not just like shooting from the hip. We are analyzing our data, we're looking at our information, we are putting it all in context, and we're making good decisions based on those outcomes. You might also be selecting comparative data like state data, federal data, or national data, or your local data, right? Like you could also be selecting comparative data of, and in the gold level application, we're really more interested. We think it's more relevant to compare yourself to the nursing home down the street than it is to compare yourself to a national average, of course. And so maybe that is how you take into consideration what you're going to select for comparative data, right? Like that's the word consideration. What are you considering when you select? How do you consider what you're going to use as your data, comparative data, to make fact-based decisions? And so I would just kind of rework this one a little bit as well. We deploy, I have me baffled there. Unless you're saying, because deploy means like tell, right? Like it's something that you're going to tell somebody. So maybe that's what you mean. Like we tell everybody using matrix care what our reports and what our data is, and then I'd want to know when, like how often, because again we're looking for a systematic process. So this whole idea of how do you select comparative data and information to support your fact-based decision making, what we're really looking for is this step-by-step process that says we select comparative data based on this, based on our historical data that still is in line with and supportive of our strategic objectives and action plans, daily and overall. We also maybe take into account our competitive data, areas, homes that we're competing with in our area, maybe state, maybe national. And we gather all of that data and we use that data to compare ourselves to, and we're looking to make these decisions on what we should be focusing on. How often does it happen? That's my little when question. Does it happen monthly, quarterly? Like how often are you doing it? Maybe it's daily. Maybe it's both, right? Like maybe it's because it's daily and overall. Maybe, sometime, you're meeting every day and you're looking at it, or maybe it's unlikely that you're doing it daily, but it could be, right? Like this is more of an in-depth review. So, okay, 4.1 B1. Let's see here. Okay. 4.1 B1 is really good. I just have a couple of quick questions. Just so you see, like you're seeing this here, when in 4.1, this is really what we're asking. When, where are you evaluating? What are you evaluating? How are you evaluating? And I'm looking for trends, comparisons, RCAs, correlations, and who is responsible, right? Like that kind of encompasses all the elements of 4.1B1. And as you can see my check marks, as I just went through, I'm like, I see it. There are a couple things that I could use a little bit of clarification on, but again, this is a pretty strong answer. First, I would add the word competitive, right? Because that's really what you're doing. You're utilizing internal data as well as competitive data. Just a little spelling change here. We use approaches. We use the scorecard shown, and I would just label this scorecard. And I wouldn't call it 4.1. You can. It's fine. 4.1. This is obviously in a TOER because you're giving us the results. But we haven't gone over the org profile yet. We're going to do it next week, actually. But when we do go over the org profile, we're going to get to the strategic challenges section of the org profile, which there should only be like 3 strategic challenges, maybe 4, not 5, not 6, not 8, right? And the reason why that's important to talk about here in 4.1 is because with that strategic challenges, what we want is like overall buckets. And so decreased falls would probably more fit into the bucket of a strategic challenge an ongoing strategic challenge for you might be QMs, right? So always to be improving your quality measures. And so then this would maybe make more sense that you said QMs, which would include decreased falls, of course, right? And it would also still be daily, and it would still be the, internal event logs and still be QM data. Like all of that still makes sense. And even 7.1 still makes sense. And the DON is DON. All of it makes sense. But now it's tied to that org profile. And same with reducing costs, because then maybe one of your strategic challenges in your org profile is the financial health of your organization. So then you don't say reduce cost, you say, keeping my eraser. I don't want the eraser. I want the pen. It might be just to overall health of your organization, financial health, right? Like, so these measures can be, and it might be more helpful if you stay consistent, if we just label them the same buckets that we label in the org profile under the strategic challenges. Just as an idea. Me just underlining and circling stuff, don't worry about it. I mean, unless I put a question mark, of course. It's just when I read it, I'm just trying to make sure I see everything. I don't know what Highland Rim Healthcare Coalition is. So I can imagine what it is, but I don't know. And again, not everybody who's going to be reading your application is going to be familiar with healthcare, and that there are other agencies out there that help us do this kind of work. So it's gonna benefit you greatly if you tell us what it is, give us a little bit more context for what it is exactly. And I wonder, and I don't know, you never know who's going to read your application, but I wonder, you say that Highland Rim Healthcare Coalition can plan for potential disasters and compare our results to other facilities in the region. That, my friend, is likely going to go on my TOER, and I won't know what that even looks like for me. Like, I'm just telling you, like, I would put that on my TOER and not have any idea what I'm expecting or who is the data going to be coming from. I'm going to guess and say that the Highland Rim Healthcare Coalition could provide you with that comparative data. I don't know. Maybe they're the ones giving you the graph that shows you that you are doing better or worse than for potential disasters than others in your region. But that is definitely going on my TOER. So keep that in mind. The only thing that I see missing from my expectation of 4.1b1 is the RCA piece. You kind of hint at it. You do. All it just simply means is, if you think about your problem-solving methodology, right? I mean, we're asking you, how do you analyze and review your performance and capabilities? When you identify a problem, you do it through review, right? You review, you analyze, you take raw data, you put it into context, turn it into information. You review, compare, analyze it, compare it against your competitors, other competitive data. And if you find a trend, right? A trend, and that's super important. You actually used the word trend somewhere, which I was really happy to see. Well, somewhere, I don't know where the hell it is. I thought I underlined the word trend because I liked it. Oh, it's right here. I did underline it, but then I circled this. So this whole trend analysis, I was like, yes, I see trend. I like that. Maybe it would be helpful if you then just took that next step and said, if the trend is going in the wrong direction, we would do an RCA and Just finish out the how you would actually go about solving that problem. RCA, brainstorm ideas, come in, create an action plan, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying. Okay. Regarding 4.1b2, first of all, let me just highlight this. Take that word regular out. Never use it again. It'd be better that you put an actual time frame. Like regular performance assessments. No, just say performance assessments, and don't even use the word regular. Just say performance assessments and all departments enable. Right, that'd be better. It's a little wordy. When we address adverse trends, we deploy and action plan. Action plans are then deployed and evaluated to see if we need to create new action plans. What this question really is asking is okay, so once you reviewed all your performance indicators, how do you decide what it is you're going to improve next? How do you triage all of this? How are you going to make sure what you're going to do? And the key word here that we're looking for is the word innovation, of course. How do you use findings from performance reviews to identify priorities? That's triaging. For continuous improvement and opportunities for innovation. And this might be a stupid little comparison, but an improvement is like patching a leak, and an innovation is redesigning the roof, right? An improvement is adding more hours to toileting, and innovation is redesigning the entire fall assessment form, right? How do you decide what you look at all your performance measures? Let's be clear. When we look at our performance indicators, there's usually more than one thing that we need to work on. How do you decide what do you work on first, or what's going to be taking the most precedence, and how do you both prioritize both continuous improvement and opportunities for innovation? Where is that? Where do you go, the process is fine, we just have to get people behind it? And where do you go, let's redesign the process? That's the question. The second thing, or the final thing that I want to say overall about this is that we need more learning. We need more, for example, oftentimes I have a little Yahtzee game here, and it's just the dice and the little can, right? And I like to use Yahtzee as an example when I'm training, especially when I get into 6.1. I usually do Monopoly or Yahtzee or something, because we're always talking about how to design a work process. And one of the things I try to point out when I'm explaining or making the connection between so what I will do normally we'll see what happens when I get into 6.1, but what I do normally is I'll be like, can somebody explain to me how to play Yahtzee? Or can somebody explain to me how to play Monopoly or something? And somebody will say, oh, I know how to play, and then they'll try to explain it. And of course, their explanation is usually weak at best, right? And they don't start where it makes the most sense, which is with the objective, right? And so I explained, in order to explain how to play Yahtzee, you would start with, okay, here's the objective of the game, and then this is the rules of the game, and then this is how you play, right? Same thing with the job routine. This is the objective of giving showers. This is what you need, the considerations, the rules or whatever, everything you need, and then this is the order you do it, and this is how you do it. The reason I'm making this point to you, in 4.1, just to highlight the point, is because the most difficult thing about teaching anybody how to play Yahtzee like this, just over video, is when we don't have the Yahtzee game in front of us. But if I have the Yahtzee game in front of us, I have the dice in front of us, the little cup in front of us, the little pads of paper in front of us, I have this physical thing. I can show you how to play. I can show you how to roll the dice. I can show you what three of a kind look like, what a full house looks like. The whole point of me rambling here is to say that if I had the actual game in front of me, it'd be easier for me to show you exactly what I mean. And that's the same thing with a story. That's the same thing with an example. So I would just invite you to consider adding, for example, and then you give us a scenario of about a time that you were trending and tracking some sort of a metrics and it wasn't going in the right direction, and you did all the things to not only improve that data, but to work on that data, work on that. Maybe give us another example on how you chose to innovate about recreating the process by using this new thing, new way of doing something. I'm just inviting you to consider that two things. One, we need to see learning. We need to. And when you need 24 areas of learning and you have 12 sections, it only makes sense that you're going to work really hard to show 2 areas of learning per section. So, and that whole idea behind, for example, is, I think, just simply the best way to go about it. Okay, let me know if this is helpful. I will talk to you soon.